Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to work on a little bit more difficult recipe. It's called Swedish meatballs. I've made my own meatball recipe before, but this one's supposed to be a little bit different, so bear with me as I learn myself, as I teach you. I went ahead and chopped the onion and cooked it and sauteed it already, and I've got it set aside because it's supposed to be cooling. I was supposed to finally dice it, but I didn't, y'all. I just diced it. Once it cools, I can take it out and kind of chop it up a little bit more, and that'll be fine and that'll work. So we're going to focus on making the meatballs right now. I need to get those made and in the fridge, and then that way they can chill and get cold while I work on everything else. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do after we cook our onions and set them aside, I'm going to go ahead and start trying to get this going with the meatballs. Also, let me say this real quick. I'm going to double the recipe, but it's not to put in the sauce unless I need them. I'm just going to do extra, if that makes sense. So everything else is going to be made the exact same, but the meatballs I'm just going to make, a lot more. So I'm going to double that portion. So we're going to have to double this, but not the sauce portion, and you'll see in the recipe that it's separated. So you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, so the first thing I need to do is go ahead and get some panko breadcrumbs. Panko breadcrumbs, for those of you that don't know, they're a little different than regular breadcrumbs. They're a lot coarser, and actually I like those a lot more. So we're going to remember what I said, I'm doubling this, so you need to not pay attention to really my measurements. So, unless you're going to double it. 1 cup of panko breadcrumbs, and I'm going to add garlic powder instead of minced garlic. I'm going to just do a real good teaspoonful. You could probably do more if you wanted to, but that's fine. And then we need our Parm cheese. Since we're doubling, or I'm doubling, I'm going to have to use at least, I don't have this part ready, a 1/2 cup. And I want to kind of measure it to make sure that I'm on track. Let's see the best way to do this where I won't make a mess. Okay, so 2 pinches worth is about a 1/2 cup. Okay, and then I got 2 eggs together, and I whisked those real quick. And we're gonna do our milk. That's 1/3 cup, so I need 2/3. Okay. Let's get our salt and pepper. So we're gonna need a good amount of salt. I'm only gonna do about half of what it calls for. And then we can just do it as we must. All right, so this is where our measurements are really gonna we're really gonna pay attention. So I need a 1/2 teaspoon of oregano. Half a teaspoon of allspice. Half a teaspoon of nutmeg. And I'm making sure those are level. I do not want to overdo it. I've already put in my pepper. I've already put in my salt. So what I'm going to do now is grab a spoon, and I'm going to stir this up. Now, your Swedish meatballs is a mixture of ground beef and ground pork. Of course, my store did not have ground pork, like always. So, I am going to add ground beef and ground turkey or ground chicken. You can use that. Y'all give me a second. Let me chop these up just a little bit. Okay, not perfection, of course, but I did get them a little bit smaller. I didn't double the onion because, you know, some of us are not big fans, so it's fine. You need a little bit. All right, so this is our little bit mixture, this like milky breadcrumb mixture that I hope is gonna taste really good because it's weird. My meatball recipe is not like this, so it's a little bit different. Okay. All right, so this is my hamburger meat and turkey meat, and I've already mixed them together. Your measurements and everything will be down below, so if I don't forget to post them, and if I do forget, remind me. And so make sure y'all can see that. Yeah, you're gonna add this to it. I'm gonna use my hands because it's a lot like meatloaf when you make meatballs. It's just better to get on in there. So now this may seem like a lot, but like I said, I'm doubling the recipe, so I just hope it works. And make sure that your onions are cooled before you add them in, because it will spoil your milk and everything, your milk and your eggs. So, well, not your milk, but it will spoil the eggs. It'll cook them. It will not spoil the eggs. It will cook the eggs. So, you don't want to cook the eggs. Okay, that's like everything right there. They do seem a little wet. I don't like that. All right. So you don't want to overwork it. You just want to make sure everything's good and combined. And now we're ready to start forming the meatballs. Okay, so I'm just going to form the meatballs. They need to be about 1.5 inch. And I'm just going to try to not go over 2. And the method I've always used with my regular meatballs is just a big cookie sheet lined with foil, wax, you know, whatever, wax paper, parchment paper, whatever you want to use. And just form them. I may be doing them a little too big, but I feel like it's a fine, you know, it's just my family and they don't care. So this is going to take a while. So like I said, y'all don't have to do this much. You can do about 1.5 pounds, and this is close to 3 pounds. And I'm just going to make them. And we've got to stick them in the fridge and let them get cold. Freezer's probably better because you don't want them falling apart while you're cooking them. So they got to harden up, and these are real soft. Okay, y'all, so I have already cooked the meatballs and I've set them aside. I kept them in the fridge. Well, the freezer, actually. I put them in the freezer for about 20 minutes or so. And they did stay together. I did make them quite, you know, way too big. But my kids are not going to care. So there's that. I just didn't want to be standing on the stove forever. So what I did was I cooked a lot of them in the skillet like you're supposed to. So I'd have the drippings to make the sauce. But the rest of them I put in the oven because the oven cooked meatballs just do better. Hands down. Okay, so Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and start our liquid portion for the sauce. You're going to need 2 cups of beef broth, 1 cube of chicken bouillon, and I've already put that in here, and it's already dissolved. You're going to need 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, so I'm just going to use this and measure it. It's you know, not going to be exact, but it'll be close enough. About a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. That's about a teaspoon. And we need about a teaspoon of dried parsley. Not a big fan, so I'm going to put barely a teaspoon in there. I'm just not a big fan of parsley. And that's it. Alright, so we're going to head on over to the skillet and we're going to go ahead and get our grease hot, our drippings. And we're going to go ahead and put the flour on and all that in it. And we're going to start making basically a gravy, but it's the sauce for the meatballs. Alright, let's move this over here. Okay, y'all, so took the drippings that were already in here, a little bit of oil. Now, I did remove some of the oil. I took a tablespoon, and removed a little bit of the oil because I've made gravy before and it was just too much. So I went ahead and removed like about 6 tablespoons worth of grease that I felt like was too much. You don't have to do that. You can do however you see fit. Okay. So after I did that, I took 4 tablespoons of butter and I melted straight butter, not margarine. I went ahead and melted that. And then I started scraping off all the little pieces of meat and everything. And then I started slowly, keep your heat on. You need it medium to medium high. It can be like a medium heat, but you need to, or medium high heat, you just need to not let it get too hot because it's just going to combine faster than you can keep up with it, if that makes sense, and it's going to thicken up and then you're never going to be able to thin it back out. So it's very similar to a gravy, so it's very temperamental, and you will have to sit here for a little while and kind of mess with it. So see, I've already started heating it back up again and it's starting to bubble. And this is the last of all my broth, all my bouillons, all my everything. And don't worry about the little chunks of bouillon and stuff. It'll finish melting. Because this water gravy sauce is going to get hotter. So, and that'll be fine. And even if it don't melt completely, you can always remove it. I've had to do that before. Gotta find it. And I just mashed it flat, so should be able to do that more. You can also use the granules that are bouillon. It comes in granules. I have little squares, cubes. Okay. So I'm gonna let that sit and bubble for just a second. It needs to be brought to a boil, and then I'm gonna reduce it to simmer. So it's gonna take just a few minutes because it's already starting to bubble a little bit. So these things are very messy and they're just very temperamental. You have to stay with it and watch it because it will not take long to heat up. And then for long, you'll be doing it all the time with every single thing. You'll be making all kinds of different gravy sauces. So this is a little bit of a reduction, but I added flour and all that. Okay, so as you can see, it's starting to boil, basically. I'm going to let it just do it just a little bit more. You also keep your whisk handy because that'll help make sure everything's still combined. I'm just going to let it sit there for just a few more minutes. Okay, so we're gonna put it down on low. All right, now I've got about a half a cup of sour cream that has been sitting out in a bowl. I'm going to take several tablespoons of the sauce we just made, enough to equal about 1/4 cup. Doesn't have to be exact. And I'm going to mix it. So see, it's going to look like this. I'm going to mix it together. And all I'm doing is tempering the sour cream before we dump it into this big pan. Okay. So then it'll combine. It'll just combine. It's not anything. And we'll start putting it in. I prefer to do it just a little bit at a time. Take your whisk it in. Now this is where it starts to change color a little bit. I think a lot of times you see like Swedish meatballs, the sauce is kind of this gray brown color. Well, this is where it comes from. Okay. Okay, that's all of it. And I'm just going to continue to mix it. And that's it. To me, this is the hardest part right here. And I guess the meatballs, you know, combining them, trying to get them right size, this and that could probably be a little bit of an issue too. So just make sure this is good and combined. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to put the meatballs back in. They've been sitting out, just hanging out over here. And yes, I know they're too big, but it'll be fine. I can cut them in half if I'm concerned with it. It's just balls of meat after all. And then, like I said, I have more in the oven cooking. And I'm going to take the sauce and spoon over it. And this is going to help finish cooking the meat. And then I'm going to let it just sit here and simmer with them in here. So it'll continue to simmer about another 10 to 15 minutes. And then we will serve. I've got to make my egg noodles. But dinner's basically served. So I'll come back here in a minute and show you the presentation. Okay, y'all, so this is the finished product. I put it over egg noodles. I had hoped to find some bigger egg noodles, but I couldn't. Those will probably be a lot better than these small ones. But it turned out fine. It smells great. I'm sure it's going to be fine. A little bit more involved than some of the recipes that we do, but that's not such a bad thing every now and then. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do some ground beef cooked loose in the skillet, and we're gonna put some gravy in it and some seasonings, and we're gonna pour that over some mashed potatoes with some homemade biscuits. So it's just a pantry type meal, really easy on budget. So just stay tuned, watch as I throw this thing together. It's gonna take a little bit, but we'll have it all together in the next few minutes, and it'll be a really quick meal and something that's really cheap that you can make for your family. Alright y'all, so I've got some canned gravy here. I don't know if I showed you. So we're going to just make us some gravy. And you don't have to get the kind with the onions. I just picked up what was there. You can get plain brown gravy. You can get it in packets. You can get it in jars. You can get it however you want to. So I picked some up, and we're just going to make this. I browned about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of ground beef with an onion, diced onion. And now I've already drained it. I'm going to pour it back in here. The gravy, we just need this to warm up. And I'm going to make some mashed potatoes, some homemade mashed potatoes. You can make whatever kind that you prefer. And we're just going to put this over it. Very similar to a SOS. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But usually SOS has got milk gravy. Same idea, just milk gravy, which is like a white gravy. This is more of a beef gravy. So I don't know if there's another name for this or not. Y'all have to let me know. But brown gravy, hamburger meat with onion cooked loose. And I'm going to put in some garlic powder. And I'm going to put in some salt. A generous amount of pepper. Okay. And that's it. I just made sure that I drained it really good because that's too much grease. We don't want all that in our food. I'm going to sit here and let this simmer a little bit. I've got it on low. Not trying to cook anything, just trying to warm it up. And I'm going to make some mashed potatoes and some homemade biscuits, and then I'll come back and show you the end result. But this is it, y'all. It's something real simple. Should be fairly easy for you to obtain and make, and it's filling. And by all means, if you don't make homemade biscuits, don't put homemade biscuits with it. You can do rolls, or you could just do canned biscuits. But it would make a good filling supper, and it didn't cost but pennies to make. I'll see y'all back here in just a few minutes with the finished product. Okay, y'all, so this is the finished product. Probably should have put some green beans or peas or any kind of vegetable with this. But for a pantry meal that literally costs very little, this is going to be very flavorful, and it's going to fill a lot of bellies. And I decided to just throw, some homemade biscuits with it. But like I said in the video, you can do canned. It's entirely up to you and what you have available. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll see y'all next time.